Okay, we're going for a little bit of an off-the-top-of-my-crown one today. Look, there's no denying it. When Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out, it wasn't a good time for me. In fact, it wasn't a good time for many of you. I was saying stuff on stream like this. It might just be a really bad introduction to the game, but that Pokemon Center looks rough as all hell to me. This is a patch situation. They gotta patch this. There's just no way in my mind this was intended to be the final product. In fact, I found Scarlet and Violet so bad that they were a big part of the reason that I left making videos for over a year. The reasons I came back, I discussed in this recent other like conversational video. And again, like I said in that video, it's not just about coming back for the money. Though this video is also sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Thanks for helping a guy out, Surfshark. More on you in a little bit. So imagine my surprise when the Switch 2 got announced and came out, and with it, a free update to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Was I really going to give these games that I, in a legendary sense, absolutely hated another go? Well, of course. And how did I end up saying stuff like this? Right, let's do this bit. Still, he looks good. Look at his butt. Oh, shake that thing, Koraidon. Look at it waggle. The Winged King, more like the Butt King. Anyway, what happened here? Was I just being picky before? It's time for some introspection and to understand what happened between the Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and what that means for the future of Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch 2. Okay, now I should mention, I didn't just come back to YouTube for the perks. Also, again, the reasons why fully discussed in this video here. That said, thank you, Nintendo, for giving me a Nintendo Switch 2, the game camera, and a copy of Mario Kart World. I'm sure I'll talk about those in a little bit as well. I'm not obligated by them to say anything in particular in this video. And actually, I was already buying a Switch 2, so it just meant that Phoebe could get one as well. Right, so Scarlet Violet, what happened? Well, at the time, I remember feeling after a full playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet, my first run through, that there was a fun game there somewhere, but it just felt impossible to see behind massive aliasing, jagged lines and things popping in and out of the distance, and just things taking me out of a very immersive experience. I think Pokemon, for a lot of people, is about living in the Pokemon world and feeling like you're part of that universe. I did not feel that playing Pokemon Scarlet. I felt like it was kind of a chore to get through. But I've actually spent much of the last week, like well over 24 hours, live on stream, enjoying live streaming, by the way. Again, I'm live streaming most days, I think, at the moment. I say I think, I don't know the future, but I'm aiming to live stream most days. And I've just been playing a ton of Pokemon Scarlet and enjoying every minute of not only chatting to you live, but also just playing the games, enjoying playing them with the DLCs active. I did like Kitakami, like partway through the adventure, and just building out a team of Pokemon I'm just so excited about. Like, some of them are named after you in the chat. So I've got like Lars the Meowscarada, I've got I've named after Phoebe, my Toadskrull, Bob Jr., the Basculegion. How cool it is to be running through with a Basculegion. And I've got my shiny Spidops Silk that I shiny hunted the day before the game came out, because I was looking forward to the Switch 2 drop. I was getting excited for it because I had seen some footage, but only on Twitter, of all places, where it was compressed to 720p, so I didn't really look. I wanted to wait until the game was in my hands to finally get to sit down and play it. And my reaction? Here we go! As God intended! With motion blur? Yeah, absolute awe. And not just for this game, but for what this means for the future of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I have a little bit of an analogy here. Imagine you were given an ice cream one day. Pokemon Red and Blue. That's the ice cream. That's the Castelia cone. And with it, you know, over the years, they add flakes and they add sprinkles and sauces and different flavors of ice cream, right? And that's the Pokemon franchise. And one day you're given an ice cream, but that ice cream is covered in dirt. It doesn't matter how good the ice cream tastes. It's covered in dirt. It doesn't matter. You could pick away the dirt and try and see the ice cream that's there. That was what Pokemon Scarlet was to me. And now I've just been given one of the best ice creams I've ever had. I'm nearly done with the game as of recording this. I'm so excited to step into Area Zero. I don't even know what my reaction is going to be seeing Area Zero. Look at the Farigiraffes. Look at the fridges. And then some of the best music. That was always my favorite part of the game. I like looking for the bits of the game that I could enjoy, and there's plenty in the world of Paldea that I've enjoyed. Clorf and a shiny Tarantula and Spidops, sure. But now, finally getting to actually enjoy it as it was intended. I wish it came out like that. But I don't want to focus on the negatives here. I want to focus on the positives. And what this game means for the future of Pokemon on the Switch, because it means a lot. It's hard not to focus on the negatives sometimes, with so many negative people out there trying to get your data. And that's where today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN, comes in. So look, over the last couple of years, I've been made very aware of the people out there trying to get the data of myself, and more frighteningly, my parents, who are not super tech literate. I'm sure you don't mind me saying, I love you, mom and dad, and look, you're doing your best, but these guys that are out there on the internet trying to get your data, they are working harder. Just recently, I saw my mum say that she had read an article about investing some money in crypto on the BBC News website. I told her that sounded suspicious to me, and the site she linked me to looked identical to the news outlet, but the only thing that was different was the URL. My parents wouldn't know that. It's one of a few things that have happened recently, and I'm getting more and more scared about the people who are out there trying to get my parents' data. Surfshark VPN are a virtual private network, and they help route your internet data over one of their 3,000 worldwide top-tier encrypted servers. They're all across the globe. This is something I'm setting up for my parents as well as myself to help keep their data safe. As an added bonus though, because the servers are all across the globe, it gives them access to region-locked content so they can watch some programs safely that they've been wanting to watch for a while. They've also got this really convenient clean web feature that monitors malware and tracks phishing attempts so that you kind of have a good idea of like who is trying to get your data. Without monitoring what you're doing, it just puts me, my parents, you, hopefully, back in control. What's more, if you use my special code BIRDKEEPER, because me and Surfshark VPN really go back that far, if you use BIRDKEEPER on checkout or the link at the top of the description to surfshark.com/BIRDKEEPER, you will get 4 months off your plan for free. So what are you waiting for? Click that link at the top of the description. It supports the channel, and use code BIRDKEEPER on checkout so that you can feel secure online. And thank you, Surfshark VPN, for turning a negative into a positive. And with that, let's get onto the positives of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and what that means for the future of Pokemon. So I'm just going to spitball a couple of things here, just like whatever kind of comes into my mind. The first and most important one being, this is the bare minimum now. This is the worst, in theory, a Pokemon game should now ever look. Because Pokemon was improving its look pretty dramatically in one style from Gens 1 to 5. Gen 5 is the best looking of the 2D era games. I think most people agree with that. Some people have preference over Gen 4, fine, but I think Gen 5, generally speaking, is an improvement. Then they shifted to 3D. They were effectively starting from scratch. And I think every game has progressively looked better, or more or less. I think there's some where the artistic choices are better, like I think Legends Arceus and Let's Go Pikachu Eevee have stronger artistic choices. But the step from Sword and Shield to Scarlet and Violet felt a little bit odd because they were trying to do so much more. They were trying to finally elevate from that idea of like the open world section of the wild area in Sword and Shield to a whole open world. And that's a big leap. Kind of did the Legends Arceus thing between that. Now, for future open world Pokemon games, they've done the big step, and they've finally caught up to how it's going to look. So this is the future of Pokemon. That is incredibly exciting. By the way, I should say here that I still have my criticisms of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The intro is far too long, and there is still jank in there. Like the cutscene where you're standing on the top of the lighthouse, looking out over Mesago's, oh no. Why would they obviously couldn't render it in, and I think mistakes like that were less noticeable when the game as a whole looked pretty bad. But now the game looks good, stuff like that is noticeable. But because it's not the whole experience, it's actually just kind of fun jank. Don't get me wrong, I want it improved, I'd always ask for improvements, but it's the kind of jank that I can kind of get behind and be like, yeah, that's the charm of the game, I suppose. There are still many gameplay refinements and gameplay options that can be made going forward, but with the power of the Switch 2 behind it, I'm certain that the way to play Legends EA, if you are lucky enough to be able to have a Nintendo Switch 2, and again, I am very lucky to have that opportunity, I will absolutely be playing it on the Switch 2 version. I just think that it's a no-brainer. You can sort of see that from the trailer footage, but even a lot of the trailers you're watching online, like I mentioned earlier, if you're watching it on Twitter, you're watching it in 720p. Once you've got that screen in front of you, it's just so incredibly vibrant, and it's the smoothness. That's the thing that's really exciting about it, is the game just feels incredibly smooth. This is the bare minimum now. This is exciting. Another thing that's come up is that there are way more Pokemon spawning on screen because the console can just handle more and handle rendering in these Pokemon from further distances. So there's a big positive to this and maybe one negative that I'm hoping they'll improve upon. So the positive here is that the world feels more alive. It feels more real. It feels more immersive, which is again exactly what I'm looking for in the world of Pokemon. The negative is that they stepped away from that thing that happens in Legends Arceus where you get the shiny noise, and I feel like I am constantly checking with all these Pokemon spawning, is there a shiny Pokemon on screen, especially for Pokemon that you can't really tell because it's only a slight color difference. I really think the return of that noise or some overworld effect is gonna be needed for shiny Pokemon when they appear so that people can identify them more easily. And I think that's doable now, especially the overworld effect, like some particles, some shiny particles, because the console can handle it. The console has that power. Okay, next up is game chat. Nintendo sent me the game chat camera. You can use any USB-C camera on your Switch too, but they sent me this one, and it's obviously like perfectly designed for this job. I tried it out in Mario Kart, which again, Mario Kart, a lot of fun, and I was playing it with Zeltic, and at first I was a little bit of a skeptic of the camera, like, oh, that's a silly novelty. But as we were playing through Mario Kart, it was really fun to see the reaction of Zeltic as we were chasing one another, as we were throwing shells at each other. And in Mario Kart, when you hit someone with the shell, you get this the thing where the icon spins. I can imagine a world in which in future Pokemon games, you have that union circle feature where all of the people, all your players come into one world. But if you have that enabled, you have cameras above your head. Imagine doing things like max raid dens and max raid battles in future Pokemon games while streaming with friends, but you've also got that camera plugged into the Switch so that you're able to see the reactions of all your friends in the game while you're playing. And where I really think it's going to be an important feature is actually not for adults like me, okay? I have access to other apps that are going to help me like communicate with my friends and like see their faces and that kind of thing. Although this is a way of taking a burden in terms of like sharing my camera away from my PC and just having it on the console, which is really exciting. But where I think it's going to really benefit people are with kids who maybe don't have access to Discord, their parents don't let them online, that kind of thing. Imagine you were a kid and you didn't know how to do something in a video game, and your friend who you have as a Nintendo Switch buddy is just like, oh, let me just show you in game. Not only can you chat to them over camera, but they can also share their screen with you with game chat, which is super convenient. If you're just like lost in a game, they can just show you the way. If you don't have unfiltered sort of access to the internet as we do as adults, I think kids of this age are going to really enjoy having access to that feature with their mates. I know I would have when I was younger. And it's important that kids like Pokemon because that helps the franchise keep growing and being a better place for all of us. But there is one more feature for the Switch 2 that I have to talk about, that my chat, you were non-stop talking about this, asking me to check and see if it worked, to see if there was an update that allowed for this. This works as a mouse on a desk. You can use this on a flat surface to direct a cursor. How does this work with Pokemon? And Pokemon Home just turns them into literal PC boxes where you can drag your Pokemon, where you can edit their names, stats, and moves. Stuff like this in Pokemon is going to be so fantastic, and I hope we see this implemented as soon as Pokemon Legends ZA. What's more is, and there's throwbacks, we've got Pokemon Gale of Darkness and Colosseum coming to Nintendo Switch 2's GameCube expansion. Obviously, Pokemon Legends ZA is coming out, and the next year is the 30th anniversary with Generation 10. I am, for the first time in years, I mean truly years, excited about the future of Pokemon, and there's no little bit of my brain that's caveating the sort of like, but, you know, it'll still be this, or it'll still have that, or be like, no, I'm just excited. And that's a dangerous and vulnerable place to be. So I'm going to continue to find my enjoyment in the older Pokemon experiences so that I have that as a grounding. But I'm optimistic for the future of Pokemon and Scarvy. And like, I could see myself playing these games and other Pokemon games on live stream for years to come because I'm genuinely excited about playing Pokemon right now. You can actually catch me live, by the way, like most days at the moment. I'm just like super in love with streaming again. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Just quick thoughts over. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. Thank you so much to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Use code BirdKeeper on checkout, link in the description, surfshark.com/birdkeeper. And thank you Nintendo for sending me a free Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart, and of course the game chat camera. I could not be feeling more positive for the future. If you want to understand the other reasons I came back to YouTube and how I managed to get where I was with Pokemon to even come back in the first place, do be sure to check out